Hello, everyone. Scotty White of World Combat Sports. Thank you all for tuning in. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Herbert, the Blaze Burns, man, a mixed martial artist competing on the UFC platform. He's just coming off a very dominating victory with Evan Dunham. And do me a favor, share the video. It's always good. Thank you for your support, those of you that drop in, and be sure to leave some comments while we're doing this interview. You know, he's a rising star in the game. It's only a matter of time before he breaches the top 15, top 10 of the featherweight division. So in the meanwhile, just a little bit of breakdown. He's coming off a very dominating victory over Evan Dunham. He was at a catch weight, but of course, the fights that are returning to the cage in the middle of the pandemic, right? You're going to have some fighters that are fighting at catch weight just because they wasn't able to complete a full fight camp. But that's to be expected. It's been going on in boxing and MMA. The good thing about it is the weight cut. You know, some of these fighters, you know, like Herbert would have had to cut to 145, but he had a catch weight of 150. So, you know, he fought a very tough competitor at a higher weight, you know, catch weight, and did well, man. He stopped him in the first round. So we're going to talk about everything, man. We're going to talk about, you know, the rise, you know, his transition up through the organizations up to where he at now. And then, you know, we're going to cap it off and talk about the big fight that's coming up next month with his brother Gilbert. So y'all need to stay tuned, man. Believe me, this is big news. Like, this is a big deal for these brothers. They're blazing trails for themselves. You know, they're high-level elite jiu-jitsu practitioners who have basically undertaken boxing. So give me a minute. Hey, hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I have the one and only Herbert, the Blaze Burns. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Scott. How are you?
I'm fine. Hey, thanks first and foremost for stopping through with World Combat Sports. We're going to get right down to it. Congratulations on that win against Evan Dunham, man. It was very slick submission you pulled off.
Thank you. I was just trying to get the job done as soon as I can. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Herbert, talk us through it, man. You know, you competed in an arena with no fans there. And I know you're used to doing, you know, competing as such in jiu-jitsu tournaments and so forth with very, you know, small fan in attendance. But in that particular atmosphere, facing Evan Dunham, how was it? How was the vibe and everything for you?
It was the fight was very fast, so it's kind of hard to judge, but the entrance on the fights, I really like the entrance song and feel my music and walk out there and feel the energy from the fans, but it had none. It was a very similar experience that I had on the Apex when I fought the Contender series. It was the same arena, had a little more people there because you could bring your family to watch your fights there. But it's very flat for all the public, but it makes no difference on the results for me. With public, no public, I just need to go there and do my best. And I've been managed to doing that in my last few fights.
That's what I like about your responses, man. They always straight to the point and they cut deep. You know, you're very confident in yourself, man. You're currently contending in the featherweight division, but for this particular fight, it was at a catch weight of 150. Once you was able to drop Dunham, hey, take me through that submission, man, because I always like to be educated on what actually I'm looking at. Once it was to the ground, you start to work for the RNC, the rear naked choke, but you made a transition. Can you walk me through it for my benefit and the fans that are watching?
First, the fight was a catchweight because Evan Dunham used to fight a lightweight, and I think he plans to stay in featherweight. But it was a short notice for him, for me. But I could make 145, but they gave me two options: or fight a lightweight 155, or fight a catchweight. So I choose catchweight. But if it was for me, it would be done on a featherweight division 145. That's the limit. But it wasn't on the table. About the submission, I I knew I would have like a huge advantage on the ground. I didn't expect to be that much advantage because Evan Dunn is also a black belt and he teaches jiu-jitsu regularly in his own school in Las Vegas. So when I took his back and managed to get a takedown, the takedown I usually do at the gym, very few people can escape from my back control. Very, very few people. So when I got the back, I adjust and I'm very flexible on my foot. And so when I have the body lock, for me it doesn't matter if the right way to do is to have your foot the side you're locking up, not down.
Okay.
So if you, the lock you have like it's against the mat, a lot of people feel pressure on the ankle and they want to release the body lock or try to switch the side of the body lock. I don't really care about that. I have very long legs and very flexible on my feet. So for me, it doesn't matter. But I didn't have a proper angle to finish. So I punch a little bit to open the space. And then I managed to enter my right arm very deep. But again, I couldn't have the angle. So I have to post my right forearm on the floor to rotate him to the other side. As I was doing that, Evan has had two options of stay flat and get strike, or he could let go the roll and try to defend the choke. But while I was rolling, he didn't expect me to sink the choke that fast, and my arm was so deep, so I just kept the pressure and he tapped.
Hey, thank you very much for that education there, Herbert. And also I think you had his jaw. You know, his chin was actually in your squeeze. So that just goes to show how dangerous and how elite your jiu-jitsu game is, because I believe he tried to put his chin inside the choke, but yet I guess the squeeze was too much. He still had to tap. Awesome victory, man.
Thank you. In Brazil, you say chin down is not the defense. The defense, you got to escape. You got to escape from that situation. But yeah, the choke is here, the arteries. That's what I'm looking for. So if my elbow was very deep, I could still press the arteries and press everything that was on my way to the arteries. So I pressed everything and he was forced to tap.
Hey, Herbert, man, I have to tell you that you know, you and your brother Gilbert are on a tear right now. You're on a 5-fight win streak, man. Your name is out there. People are looking forward to seeing you return back to the cage. You was able to go in there and defeat Nate Landwehr, who hasn't been stopped before. And then also in your last 5 fights, none of them, I don't think any of them have left the second round. You have 4 that's in the first round finish and 1 that was in the second round finish. What changed, man, since the time you was in the Contender to now making your debut, having a dominating stoppage? What has changed? Did you work on your boxing more? What has changed about Herbert Burns?
I think I work a lot on my boxing a little bit more. I think I couldn't show on this fight, but I don't need to show all my skill once. And I'm from the Contender series. I started working with Derek Santos, a great boxing coach, and he has a lot of world champions under him. He works for me. He works a little bit for my brother. He works for a few guys from Sanford MMA, a few guys from ATT. And Derek is being very helpful. He's improving my striking. I train strike since like 2011. I'm Muay Thai, very Muay Thai style. When I came to the US, I did a lot of kickboxing with Harry Hooft. But I need a little bit work on my defense. That was, I think, my weakest point on my striking. Was always good offensively and could work my kicks, my knees, my punches, but not a lot of volume and not a lot of defense move. So
Yeah.
working with Derek now, I'm working on that, more volume, more speed, better defense, and he has improving me a lot, but I had not yet to show my boxing skills, but eventually I will be forced to show my boxing. People that don't know about it will be impressed.
And shout out to Henry Hoops. Don't get enough recognition. You know, legend in the game. Shout out to your boxing coach, Derek Santos, you know, for passing the information. I truly appreciate that, Derek. Hey, Herbert, you know, you in the featherweight division. I know you had some call outs in the featherweight. After this fight, are we going to see you back in there maybe next month? You know what I'm saying? How long will it be before you step back in the cage? And also, who are you looking to fight? Because you're not ranked in the top 15, but I do see you contending well against some of the fighters starting from number 10 on up. So who are you looking to face?
I gave 2 names, but I gave 2 names right after my fight. I gave the name of Ryan Hall. He's ranked, I think, number 14. Long time of inactivity. And I named also Bryce Mitchell. The guy got a new camo shorts from Reebok. But I don't think they're interested to fight me. I think their main skills are grappling, and they don't want to trade jiu-jitsu for me. I'm a completely mixed martial artist, and they rely mostly on grappling, and it will be very similar on the area. I think I'm superior in both of them under my jiu-jitsu. I really trust my jiu-jitsu game. But Bryce Mitchell is being tagged every day on his social media, not by me, but by a lot of fans are tagging him, saying if he want to fight, if he wants to fight, and he never replies, never likes the comments. And yesterday he was talking to fight Andre Fili, so he's definitely not interested in the fight. I'm not coronavirus, I'm Herbert, so don't be afraid of me that much. I'm just gonna win and kill you. But he doesn't seem interested in the fight. Ryan Hall, the same thing. I'm still recovering from the cuts, like 95%. I'm still training, but I can't training 100%. I still have like some training that I can't do because of the cuts. So I want to be back in August. I think end of August would be a good date. And Gilbert's fighting next month on the Fight Islands. I'm going there to Abu Dhabi to help him, to coach him in the fight. So
Awesome.
I will concentrate 100% on Gilbert now. After his win, we celebrate, and then I go back to myself.
And I know y'all will, man. We're going to get to that, but I wanted to make it all about Herbert in the beginning. Hey, let's go back to the names you just mentioned, man. Ryan Hall. Yeah, Ryan Hall just mentioned recently, you know, he's a BJJ guy. I mean, leg lock specialist. And, you know, you're very methodical on who you call him out, because Ryan Hall is somewhat one of those guys who've been saying that no one wants to fight him. And then you have Bryce Mitchell coming off a very dominating performance against another BJJ black belt. So therefore, he does have energy behind him. So it will be good for you and him to link up, because the one thing that you have is the BJJ background, but your hands are better. You know, your striking is much better than Bryce Mitchell. So I can understand where that fight may take a little bit longer for his team to accept, because your striking is way better than Bryce Mitchell's, in my opinion.
I think so too. I think not. I think my striking is better. I think I'm physically stronger than him. I have a little bit more wrestling. And the jiu-jitsu, I think I'm better than him. He can think that he's better, but I'm a jiu-jitsu specialist, so he won't be able to dominate it. And just taking, for example, like people, they were saying on Twitter that when calling out that he will dominate me on the ground. Like, there are levels to jiu-jitsu. I've competed in the highest level of jiu-jitsu competition.
Yeah.
So I doubt that will ever happen, that he will dominate it. But he dominated Charles Rosa, black belt, a tough guy.
Yeah.
But 15 minutes of domination and no finish. I think Evan Dunham and Charles Rosa, similar level black belts, MMA black belts, but it took me a minute and 20 seconds to finish Evan Dunham. I had one submission and was 100% accurate. So just to see the difference of level in jiu-jitsu, because some people, I think they don't see as deep, and he has momentum behind him. I think I have momentum also. It'll be a good fight for the fans and for the company.
And I understand that's absolutely true words, man. You speak like a professor in combat sports, and speaking about the BJJ levels, man, you're absolutely right. And that's one thing I have learned over the years, that you can have a BJJ black belt that trains in a school, but also you can have a BJJ black belt that trains and compete on the highest level. And yourself and your brother Gilbert has been able to compete on the highest level of jiu-jitsu. So I think that's where the levels separate themselves. Fighters that train in the gym and fighters that actually compete, jiu-jitsu. It kind of changes the game up, in my opinion.
No, definitely. And achieving the highest level in jiu-jitsu is not easy. There's a lot of guys, a lot of good guys competing to prove yourself inside the jiu-jitsu scene. It's not easy. And Gilbert and I, we've done that. And now we're doing the same thing on MMA, but we have the baggage of jiu-jitsu experience behind us. So it would be very hard for anyone that, even Gilbert, when he fought Maya, people were like overlooking his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You can't do that. But BJJ, it's prove himself as one of the dangerous BJJ in the world.
Yeah, your brother is a three-time ADCC, I believe, three-time world champion and a Gold Cup gold medalist. Definitely high level. You and him are very close in age there, Herbert. What was it like? When did y'all find out that y'all was, above the mortal standard of the regular human being? You know what I'm saying? When did y'all start finding out that y'all want to venture over into combat sports?
We started pretty early. Like I was like 5, Gilbert was 7. We started karate, and we have older brother also. He's like an equivalent to a Navy SEAL in Brazil. He's also a jiu-jitsu black belt.
Okay.
Fred, and we started doing karate when we were early competing, and then I was 11, Gilbert was 13, Fred was 15. We started doing jiu-jitsu. We started doing really well from the start, and it was a natural thing. We did jiu-jitsu, compete in jiu-jitsu, and then we did well in the tournaments, and then became black belts. And then from black belts, at that time it was hard to stay, like make money just competing jiu-jitsu. So we had to teach MMA fighters to do MMA. As we teaching them, we started training with them. And on the train, we started doing very well on the train. And then the guys, hey, you should try, you should try, you should try. How do you think about transition to MMA? And then Gilbert made his transition like a few months before me. He was here in the US. His first fight, I made my first fight in Brazil. So after my first fight, I signed with one championship. And Gilbert kept building his career and got in the UFC like pretty long ago.
Hey, speaking of your transition up the ladder there, Herbert, you competed in one FC, one championship, and on Titan FC, and then you finally got the call up to the Contender series, which is a spinoff of the Ultimate Fighter. How was that like? How did that process happen, man? Who was looking at you? Or, how did that call come about to say, hey, you want to, the Contender series is coming over here. We want you to compete in it.
It was like I was supposed to fight a Titan FC 52.
Yeah.
And it was a month before the one that I fought, but I had a small injury. They said, hey, Lex is the CEO from Titan FC. I need to like a few more weeks to prepare. It's like I'm doing an event like a month after. So he put me on that one. Can push the fight? So we pushed the fights, and then as we finished the meeting, he received a call, and then he was like, "Hey Herbert, great that you pushed the fight because Dana White's coming to look the fight. You'll be looking for a fight. We're going to have a UFC on the next day, so he'll be already in town, and they're gonna do the show looking for a fight." So I'm like, there was like God's working His magic perfectly. So I trained so hard, like did everything that I could, and faced Luis Gomez, a former Titan FC champion. He fought in the Contender series himself.
Yeah.
And I finished him pretty quickly in the first round. Again, another first round naked choke. It was like a 1 minute, 2 minutes fight. And perfect fights, no punch taking, nothing. So I knew my experience. I knew they were looking at me because even the program, they said that they were looking interested on me on Gomez. So I'm like, that's the UFC call. I wasn't expecting to be called to fight in the Contender Series because I faced a lot of tough opponents in World Championship and my brother being in the UFC. But when he come after the event, we waited and he's like, I want to speak for Herbert and Rafael. So Rafael is a Titan FC champion. He was at the time. So he called us and he's like, man, Herbert, I'm really impressed with your fights. Great performance. And I want to offer you a contract to a Contender Series. I'm like, one more fight, huh?
Hey,
Yeah.
that's
One
outstanding.
more lion. One more lion to kill. So it was one more lion to kill. So I like whatever. It's I need to do what's the it is what it takes. I need to do that. I don't have these like I do what it takes. So what it takes is to go through the Contender Series. So I had one more fight against Derek Miller. Again, push hard, train super hard, and went there and got another submission in the first round, and got me to the UFC. And it's been first round finish. Let's keep pushing to keep the same.
I know you mentioned there, Herbert, how you and your brother, man, you corner one another, right? So I know you said in an interview where in some fights you didn't get nervous, and other fights you did get nervous watching your brother. Is it the same? What fight has been the most that recently that Gilbert may have been a little bit nervous with you stepping in there? And everything, being that you've been transitioned to the UFC, right? You're already in, you're on fire right now. And a lot of people are tuning in to your name, the Burns brothers, but more so, in Herbert, I mean, your last 4 fights has been first round stoppages, man. So what's been the conversation like in the corner, man? When you went in there and faced Nate Landwehr, at the time, he only had 2 losses when he faced you. And you gave me his 3rd loss. So what was the conversation like, man?
The fight, I knew Nate is super aggressive, still super aggressive, and he trusts his chin, but chin has a durability. He's not gonna be strong forever. And I managed to be the first guy to finish him.
Yeah.
To KO him. And on that fight, it was like Henry couldn't go because Henry was in Thailand. So I had Emerson, is a friend of mine, striking coach from Brazil. He's Jose Aldo striking coach, but he's from my town. So we trained long, like since we were young. He was cornering me for my first MMA fights. And he was around, hey, Emerson, come and coach me. And Gilbert was super nervous on that fight in the corner. And he was making me nervous. Because I'm pretty chill before the fight. I'm like, Gilbert's making me so nervous. But
yeah,
he controlled himself and he did well. And this last fight against Evan Dunham, he was chill. He was like, man, because I'm relaxed, but when the fight starts, I'm just like transform myself. And he's like, no, now I already know how you are. You're weird. You're so relaxed on the corner, but so the fight starts, you really turn it on. So I just had to trust that. I don't need to make me like, because I'm relaxed and he's very excited. He needs to be calm and needs to be pumped up. So
yeah.
we're very different on that way. And when I corner him, I'm relaxed. When I corner, I'm focused. It's like a job. I need to be there to be a tool for him. So I don't think I'm being nervous. But if I'm watching like this fight against Tyron Woodley, I was watching home because I was fighting next week, so I couldn't go to corner. This was the fight I was most nervous about. Like if I watched him live before in the arena, and I didn't got as nervous as this fight against Tyron Woodley, but it was a great performance.
Hey, Herbert, I will transition since you mentioned, the fight between your brother Gilbert Burns and Tyron Woodley, who was able as a welterweight champion, right, to defend his title 4 times before losing it to Kamaru Usman. Now, your brother Gilbert Burns have made an unbelievable ascension to the top. A lot of people were saying that since he faced Tyron Woodley, there may have been other people that was there that was in the position to face Kamaru Usman in a title shot. But check this out. I believe the performance that Gilbert Burns put on against Tyron Woodley, in my opinion, exceeded the performance of Kamaru Usman when he faced Tyron Woodley. I'm just being honest. I just think, the knockdown that Gilbert was able to get and how dominant he was to be able to mount Tyron Woodley and just, be able to effectively strike from the top position. I thought it was much more of a dominant performance by your brother Gilbert. In that fight, man, what was the plan? Your brother went in there and stood with a guy who's known to knock guys out. He went in there and knocked out Darren Till. He put Stephen Wonderboy Thompson on his back. And then he kind of had a back and forth with Damian Maia, who also is a BJJ world champion. What was the plan to go in there for Tyron Woodley that y'all discussed?
The plan was exactly what Gilbert did: stay on Tyron's and stay on his face, be active, use the fence, use the leg kicks, and use Gilbert's best weapon. That's the power shots and the jiu-jitsu. Gilbert managed to stun him on the start of the fight, tried to finish, couldn't finish. But from that point of the fight, Gilbert already had the win because he gained Tyron respect everywhere. Because I think before the fight, Tyron wasn't taking Gilbert as seriously as he should. Like, give interviews about his past, his achievements, and about his future, but not focus on the present. You need to focus on the present. The present is the most important. The next fight is always the most important. Doesn't matter what you have done before. The next fight is the most important fight of my life. That's what we should have in mind. Any fighter should have in mind. Doesn't matter if you were champion. This doesn't come. When the cage close, will be you against your opponents now. Doesn't matter who you faced before and how dominant you were before. And when Gilbert stunned him, dominated him on the first round, he went to the corner already like, man, this not again. Like, I'm gonna be dominated again. And I think the mindset that he had, even on the fourth round, his corner was saying, hey man, you can do it. You can do it. Like, there was no more technical advice. There was nothing more. Hey, you do this, you throw your right hand here and there. No. They were just the corner kind of gave up. They were like, you can do it, you can do it. It was just like a motivational talk. Because they felt that he couldn't go. And even after all that talk, Tyron went there and clinched Gilbert. And Gilbert just like opened his arms. Like, seriously? You clinching? You're losing the fight. You're clinching. Why are you clinching? You need to throw your hands to do something. And Gilbert did a little Kamaru performance against Woodley was great, but Gilbert, in my opinion, also was much better. Kamaru he clinched more against Woodley, pushed Woodley against the fence, and while Gilbert stayed there and traded punches with him. So, yeah, it was a great performance. The game plan was exactly that: stay on the face and mix it up. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling. He managed to take Woodley down 3 times. So he followed the game plan perfectly.
Hey, thank you for that summation there, Herbert Burns. You absolutely summed that up. And the strange thing about that performance with Tyron Woodley, people was like, wow, Gilbert Burns is on a warpath right now. Just like, they're saying your finishes and who you are as a fighter now in the UFC in the same basically elevated state. The Burns brothers are here. They're in 2 different divisions and they're doing big things. Now the process comes in there, Herbert. Somehow, some way you get 2 teammates. You know what I'm saying? Your brother Gilbert defeats Tyron Woodley, the #1 contender. Now, somehow, some way the bout is made between him and Kamaru Usman. They're teammates, or they used to be teammates. So what is that like, man? I know you sat back and had discussions with your brother, without saying too much, but they pretty much know about one another. They've been in the camp together. So, how's that process been, man?
It's a weird situation. It is.
Yeah.
And they're both professional. They like each other. They're not best friends, but they like each other. But there's only one champion. Everyone wants to be the champion. Kamaru is very professional. He will never deny anyone the chance of achieving his dream. And he has the same dream of that person. And he achieved the dream now. He is the champion. And Gilbert's dream is to be the champion. So they're doing the right thing. They're proving that you can fight. There's no bad blood between them, and hopefully after the fight, you never know, but we won't have any bad blood. They will. If Kamaru wants to come back and train here, he'll be welcome. If he needs help for the fighting, he's not
Yeah.
fighting Gilbert. I believe you'll help him. I would help him. And it is a weird situation. The coaches are kind of like not trying to take part on the fight. So Gilbert is doing his training, like relying a lot on the training partners, how he always do. The conditioning coach, the strategist team, we are helping him as much as we can, and he'll be ready to be there and I think put a great performance. Camaro is a super tough fight, but I believe Gilbert has all the tools to go there and become the first Brazilian welterweight champion.
I know you speak of, you and your brother being BJJ elites, right? And you say first BJJ is first. That's your garden of submissions. That's your garden of combat authority. But we seen Kamaru Usman go in there and have a stand-up, bang it out session with Kobe Covington. We seen your brother Gilbert go in there and work the hands tremendously against Tyron Woodley. You have Kamaru Usman, who's wrestling based, and then you have your brother who's very elite BJJ practitioner. Now we can only say that the fight probably will go the first 2 or 3 rounds. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell when you have that much skill set compiled in one package, but I would assume to say it's going to be a stand-up war, the first 3 rounds a little bit, because you have a wrestler and BJJ practitioner.
I think the fight's going to go everywhere because they know each other's strong points, they know each other's weakest points. They're training against each other so many times. I think since 2014 or 13 that they train together. It's a long time. It's a super long time. Even before Kamaru was on the UFC, here they used to train together. So they know. I think gonna be like a dog fight, a war fight. They're gonna go at each other super hard on the feet, on the ground, on the wrestling. It will be a lot of scrambles. I think it'll be a great fight, but I really believe that Gilbert will end up victorious at the night.
Of course, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to this fight, man. Especially it's going to be on Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. Man, it's going to be tremendous, man. And I do wish y'all the best going over there for that title fight. A lot of people that may have not been mixed martial arts fans before, I think they're going to tune in to this card, man. You have 3 championship fights that's on the card. If not, rumored to be 4. I'm not sure. But for your brother, though, what did he learn from the Dan Hooker fight? Now to step in here with a striker like Kamaru Usman. What did he learn from that fight?
He learned a lot. It was a tough loss for him. He was in a good momentum of his career, knocking people out.
Yeah.
And he fell in love too much for the hands. He was a little bit careless on that fight. He hurt Hooker, and it was just like super careless trying to finish the fights and open up, no defense, and Hooker caught him. Props to Hooker. But Gilbert learned a lot from that, and he came back, and we have a good talk. We have like a mental coach that worked for us, Luciana. She was a mental coach for the Brazilian judo team. She worked for a lot of Olympic champions, world champions, and she's been doing very good working on Gilbert's mindset. And he has a lot of tools. You just cannot let like the emotional take over on the fight. You gotta be fighting for your emotion.
Yeah.
If the public makes a difference, if you hit the guy and you feel the buzz from the crowd and you want to go crazy, you're gonna open up. You're gonna give chance to your opponents, and the highest level, a small chance, a good opponent will capitalize on it, and that was happening with Hooker. So I think when he decided also to move to welterweight after the fight, and everything's working out. He's following the strategies more clearly now. He's not going crazy. He's not turning into Hulk mode. He's staying very precise and very cool, very calm, and everything is working out. You just need to keep doing that to become the new champion.
Hey, do you have any predictions there, Herbert?
I think he will finish the fight. I'm not sure how, but I think he'll be a finish.
Absolutely, man. Hey, Let me get to some of the people that's in the chat. I know D Ray has said BJJ is in the blood. Um, there has to be one champion. Hey, I look forward to seeing you step in there again. You was very entertaining there, Herbert. And also, I always listen to the language of these fighters. I appreciate the education that I've been able to learn today, because to me, once you tell me, I never forget. And it's always interesting to see brothers. I just had an interview with the Douglas Lima, and him and his brother is in mixed martial arts, but Douglas Lima is Bellator and his brother's in UFC. Both you and Gilbert are UFC, competitors. And right now you rarely find two brothers in two divisions that's making a big run in the sport in the eyes of the fans. Because a lot of fans are tuning in to see both of you all compete again, especially Gilbert stepping in there for the welterweight championship next month on Abu Dhabi. So, man, I thank you for stopping through. And I look forward, if Gilbert's free before the fight, I know he's dialed in. I definitely like to interview him, man. Thanks for dropping through from World Combat Sports. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone that's watching. And yeah, let's try to get Gilbert into the show. He's very busy and trying to give us at least interview as possible to try to be focused on the team. But yeah, I will try my best to bring him on. And guys, tune it in. The Burns BJJ are the Burns brothers are the real deal. So we have BJJ, we have striking, and we're going to make a lot of noise. Gilbert will become the champion, and I'm on my way to do the same thing on my division, one step at a time and not rushing. But you guys soon will be hopefully in a few months I'll be back in action and putting another great show for you guys.
You know what's dangerous, Herbert, is the fact that you are a big featherweight, man. So that means we're gonna see you fighting at 155, sooner or later in the future, man. I'm telling you. It's just a matter of time. I don't know how fast they're gonna bring you up in the featherweight division, but man, you're a big featherweight. So it's only a matter of time before you in the lightweight division, man.
I think so too. I think it's not easy to me to make featherweights. That's why I want to stay, because I'm one of the biggest guys in the division. If I go lightweight, so I won't be a small lightweight, but I will be a normal size lightweight. But I think featherweight is the division for me at the moment. If things change, then I might try my luck at lightweight.
Absolutely. What degree black belt are you, Herbert?
I'm a 2nd degree black belt.
2nd degree. Outstanding. Hey, once again, salute to you and your team. Hey, best wishes going over there to Abu Dhabi, Yas Allen, July 11th, man. His brother, this is Herbert Burns, the brother of Gilbert Burns. I mean, two elite BJJ practitioners in the world, but also they're making a name as being two of the best strikers in mixed martial arts now. Herbert is on a 5-fight win streak. He went in there and stopped Nate Landwehr, and then he's just coming off a slick 1st-round submission against Evan Dunham. So stay tuned. Be sure to check out Herbert Burns, aka The Blaze, and also check out his brother Gilbert Dorino Burns next month as they go in there and compete for that championship. Salute to you, and thanks for stopping in there, Herbert.
All right, thank you, Scott. Peace out.
All right, take it easy.
Thank you.
Hey, what's going on, everyone who tuned in? I appreciate it. That was Herbert Burns. Shout out Lion Killer in the building, man. Always a pleasure. Make sure you check out his channel. Always solid content. And that was Herbert Burns, the brother of Gilbert Burns. Two brothers who are on the rise. I'm talking about they doing big things, man. They've traveled in other organizations up to the point of the UFC. Herbert Burns is a high-level elite jiu-jitsu practitioner, 2nd degree black belt. His brother, Gilbert Burns, is a 3-time world champion, World Cup gold medalist in BJJ. Both of these guys, man, are close in age, so they've been grappling for quite some time. But the great thing about it is they basically made the transition to start working their boxing skills. and they've done a damn good job. You know, you rarely find the jiu-jitsu practitioners to come in here without trying to lock up all the time. But look, the game has changed, y'all. Now you have BJJ practitioners, high-level elite competitors. They're working on their boxing more. You know what I'm saying? They're working on their Muay Thai. They're working on the other facets to the game. So what they already know is just an added measure to their striking cachet. D-Ray, thanks for stopping in, man. Said champ. Sporting say, will do, Herbert. Combination of Anaconda and Rhino. That's a scary combo. Yeah, man, these guys are they're gonna make a big run, man. Herbert right now is fighting at 145. We know the champion over there is Alexander Volkanovski. Hey, man, I see him matching up well with some of the competitors outside the top 10 right now. You know, like he mentioned Ryan Hall and also Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell is a huge name right now because he went in there and defeated another black belt in Charles Rosa. Easy. He dominated him. And he dominated him on the ground. But hearing Herbert call out Bryce Mitchell, it matches up well. Why? Because the strength that Bryce Mitchell was showing and dominating that black belt, Herbert, in a sense, is like, do that to me. You know what I'm saying? Try to do that to me. I'm not scared. You know, I can match your BJJ game, you know, equally. But yet the advantage, in my opinion, that Herbert Burns has is his striking. His striking is much more a different level than Bryce Mitchell. You know what I'm saying? Bryce Mitchell was able to get in on the clinch of Charles Rosa because he probably felt that he could do that. He's definitely not going to take that same approach to Herbert Burns. It's not going to happen. And then Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall is a leg lock specialist. I heard him recently say it's hard for him to get fights. And I can understand because Ryan Hall is legitimate specialist when it comes to the ground. But also, I think the well-rounded aspect of Herbert Burns is too much for Ryan Hall. Period. I think it's too much because we're talking about, once again, two elite brothers in the sport of BJJ and who has evolved their all-around game with kicks and punches, and it'll be too much. Was his brother weight drained when he lost? Well, good question, D-Ray. The part of when he lost to Dan Hooker was just the game plan, in my opinion, because yes, Gilbert Burns did fight at a lower weight class before. He has since moved up to 170. Right now, Dan Hooker is fighting at 155. So I wouldn't say that it was a weight, a weight cut kind of drained him out a little bit because Herbert didn't mention it, but he kind of mentioned just like the game plan. You know, his brother probably squaring up against Dan Hooker, who's long striker, and he was able to match, punch for punch with Gilbert and was able to get the win. It depends when it goes to mixed martial arts, man. We're talking about the all-around package. And, Dan Hooker is on a tear right now. But guess what? Gilbert Burns is in welterweight division. Dan Hooker is still, he's at lightweight. You know what I'm saying? So from what he's saying, it was a wrong game plan. I'll take it from his brother who knows him the best. You know what I'm saying? It was a wrong game plan. But yeah, man, I look forward to seeing them back in the cage. This is a big fight for his brother Gilbert Burns because, coming off that loss with Hooker, he's gathered some wins, and also he was able to go in there and make a signature victory against Tyron Woodley, man. Tyron Woodley, a lot of people just take the fact that Kamaru Usman was able to get the victory. But look how Gilbert Burns went in there against Tyron Woodley. It was a much more dominating performance, to be honest with you. What he was able to do to Tyron with landing the power shots, knocking Tyron down early in the fight, and what was able to happen once he had him on the ground. Hey, I would say again, his performance was much more dominant than Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman used his wrestling, takedown, really didn't punish Tyrone like Gilbert. Gilbert had Tyrone leaking, had him cut open, and that says a lot, man. That says a lot. But good question, D-Ray. Good question. Real talk. So stay tuned, man. You know, Herbert Burns is featherweight. That's 145. It's a lot of people that's outside the top 10 that's very good opponents for Herbert Burns. And then when you start getting in the top 10, of course, I think it's some people that he matches up well with. What I don't understand is how Brian Ortega is still ranked number 1. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not curious. I mean, I'm just not understanding how that process is, to be honest. I just don't. So you look at the featherweight division, you have Max Holloway, right, who's set to be in there for a rematch against Alexander Volkanovski, who really didn't want to rematch Holloway, right? Because he felt he won the fight too easy. And he defeated Max Holloway in the most authoritative way you can possibly do when you're the challenger. So in the process of defeating Max Holloway, who's defending his title multiple times, and then he was coming off that interim loss at lightweight against Dustin Diamond Poirier. He dropped back down and lost his title defense against Volkanovski. But what I don't understand about this division is the fact that Brian Ortega still sits at number 2. I just don't know how that's the case when Brian Ortega has been, basically turning down fights. His fight against Max Holloway was brutal. And a lot of people are saying that it changed him because that was back in 2018, wasn't it? And the punishment that Ortega received was unfreaking believable. I mean, it's 4-ounce gloves, it's mixed martial arts. We got it. That's why, following the sport as long as I have, that fight in itself was much more brutal than the JDS and Anthony Smith. That fight was much more brutal than Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Wiley Zhang. I seriously think so. Like the punishment that Ortega took, he hasn't been back in the cage since, man. I mean, he had an altercation with one of these guys who don't even compete outside the ring. But besides that, how is he able to stay in the number 2 position? I look at somebody like Herbert Burns and his striking, and I say, put him in there with Brian Ortega. And I would think if Brian Ortega hasn't improved his boxing, Herbert Burns beats him. And he's the number 2 guy right now on the ranking scale. He's the number 2. You know what I'm saying? But you got plenty other people in the lineup, So it's going to be a while before we see Herbert Burns breaching the top 10, top 5. But be on the lookout. Definitely be on the lookout. That's all I can say. And also, I will be covering the July 11th card that's going down in Abu Dhabi, Yas Island. Heavy card on the main card. Okay, you have Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns as the main event, for the welterweight championship. And then this will be Kamaru Usman's second defense. His first defense was against Kobe Covington, and he ended up winning that. The second co-main event will be, Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski, from my understanding. So that's going to be the rematch between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Bless Holloway. And Max is going to have to go in there with a different plan. Volkanovski feels he's going to do the same thing. He's not too worried. If Max is able to go in there and get his belt back, man, it further cements his legacy as one of the best featherweights, period. And then the other one is a vacant title championship bout. And we're talking about Peter Yan against Jose Aldo. Don't just sit up here and talk about Jose Aldo, who lost 13 seconds to Conor McGregor. Those days are done. You know, it's plenty of greats who have lost. Jose Aldo's coming down from 145, y'all. I couldn't believe Jose Aldo at his age, he's in his 30s, would drop from 145 to 135. He looked absolutely like he was a frame with skin. He was dried up. But I commend him for making the weight and then showing up to fight. He went in there and was able to have his first fight against Marlon Moraes. And now somehow, I guess the matchmakers at the UFC said, hey, we want to give for the vacant, I guess we want to give him a little bit of veteran privilege. Let's put Jose Aldo in there against Peter Yan. So that's for the vacant bantamweight title. Recently dropped by Henry Cejudo, who decided to retire after defeating Dominique Cruz. You know what I'm saying? That's where we at, man. D-Ray say, what do you think about the corner that didn't want to stop the fight? Okay. Damn good question, D-Ray. Appreciate that. This is what I think about that. The trainer who was in there is well known. He's been around for quite some time, right? It's up to the trainer to sometimes motivate some fighters in a circumstance where they feel that they may need that. Like, these trainers may know a little bit more about the fighter than we know from the audience looking in. He might have felt his fighter needed that extra motivation when he was kind of down and getting outworked in the fight. So he's like, hey, man, come on. You can do better. Like, I can't assume what you're going to think about my response. You know what I'm saying? I can't assume, because my response is much different, because I look at boxing and MMA and I've seen worse. You know, physical damage done in a fight, right? But when it comes to Max, right, he didn't look aesthetically degraded to a point where I would say, okay, stop the fight. But check this out. I don't know what's going on internally with the guy. I don't know what type of physical condition. I don't know what his cardio was like. I don't know if he, you know, how well he was conditioned in fight camp, what type of notice he got. But somehow, some way, the man felt that he needed to surrender and not go on in the fight. Now, we've seen previous fights like Raquel Pennington go to the same thing, y'all. She was like, no, I'm done. They said, no, you're not done. Fight. These trainers know what these fighters are capable of. Some of them know that they're much tougher. You know what I'm saying? We don't know the whole extent. But people need to stop making a big deal. You know, hey, I know Ariel Helwani feels some type of way about it. But guess what? Ariel is not fighting. Ariel is a media voice, well respected in the MMA community. But come on, man. Unless you're basically gloving up, unless you're on the mat, unless you're in there taking kicks and punches, you really can't sit back and say, oh, it was disgusting. I mean, we've had several fights. We just had the Anthony Smith fight and JDS, man. Anthony Smith say, it's not up to my corner to stop the fight. I told them under no circumstances that I want you to stop the fight. Let me fight on. We've had several fights within combat sports in general. You're not having a lot of mixed martial artists die in the cage. Name them. But in boxing, you do, because the centrally directed punishment is where? To the body and head. Okay? So therefore, weighing in on the 8 to 10 ounce gloves, it's going to jar the brain. You know, the head ain't meant to be hit like that with the padding that's in the glove. It does a lot more damage, in my opinion, over long term than 4 ounce gloves. So to answer your question, man, my response is going to be like, I've seen it before. I've seen fighters in worse conditions than he was. So I don't know, mentally, he just said, fuck it. I don't want to be here. I'm down 2 rounds and I don't want to damn make up the last round. I don't want to put forth 200% to go ahead and try to knock this guy out. Or I don't know if he just wasn't in shape, because I'm gonna tell you, he didn't look like he was breathing heavy on the stool. He didn't look like he was gasping for air. I've seen much worse fighters in mixed martial arts that was in worse condition that went out there and fought. I'm just being honest. I'm not taking anything away from this fighter. Once again, I'm not in there competing. But my response is going to be a little bit on the lighter side, that the coach knew. The coach said, hey, fight on. But yet the fighter decided to go against the coach. It happens. And he quit. So therefore, that's something he's going to have to deal with in camp, man. Like I said, I don't know if he had an injury. I don't know mentally something was going on in his personal life. I don't know any of that. But when it comes down to the physical assessments and what he was going through in the cage and how he was looking over there on the stool, he wasn't like all folded over, gasping for air, trying to breathe and everything else, and act like he could barely walk. He actually stood up and he walked around, and then INSAC came over there and asked him, do you want to continue? Nevada Athletic State Commission. And he said no. That was that. Done. I don't take too much credence into that, man. I'm not the coach. I'm not the team. My mindset is a lot different. You know what I'm saying? I've just seen worse in real life, and I've just seen worse on the television screen. And he wasn't even, in my opinion, when you look at the physical part of it, he wasn't even like top 50 of what I've seen throughout in mixed martial arts. So it had to be some underlying issue with him, not wanting to continue. But very good question, man. I appreciate that, D-Ray. Real talk. I just have a different, view of some of the fights that's going on. And, some people might say, oh, man, he's getting fucked up. But check this out, D-Ray. We've seen Diaz get fucked up worse than Max did. You know what I'm saying? We've seen freaking Nate Diaz get kicked in the face, man. We've seen Clay Guida and Diego Sanchez way worse. Man, come on. Like, we've seen Frankie Edgar in some wars, man. We've seen the Guerrero brothers. Man, it's so many freaking fights I can name that fighters have been in way worse situations. You remember the fight against BJ Penn and Joe Daddy Stevenson? Do you remember the blood that was squirting up out of his head? It was like a fountain. And that cut had happened before. He was bleeding all over the place. What about the Robbie Lawler fight and Rory McDonald? Brutal. Do you think that fight right here, even though we're in the middle of COVID-19, do you believe it was that type of fight, that type of brutality? Not even. Rory McDonald ended up being stopped. Nose broke. I mean, that dude would have went out on his shield. So I just look at it like this. When I see boxing and MMA, my calibration, I always go back to fights that I've witnessed before. And I always look at certain people, how they criticize a fighter that they was hoping to lose. Me, I look at it like, how much punishment did they take that I can assess without being disrespectful, because I'm not in there. And then I look at how much punishment was endured doing some of these fights I'm comparing them to. And you look at the Robbie Lawler fight, Roy McDonald, that was a freaking brutal fight. You're talking about split, Robbie Lawler lip split from his right nostril down his lip, somewhat similar to Alistair Overeem against Jordanis Rosenstruck. The left side, nose broken on Rory McDonald. I mean, freaking blood everywhere. Brutal fights, man. Brutal fights. I'm not saying you have to sit up here and look like it's Halloween, but I'm just saying, when it comes down to some of these fights, the fans and the criticism is a lot more lenient, and than some where it's a lot more sensitive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hear Ariel, I get it, but Ariel can come off like, just say for instance, Ariel was going for Corey Sandhagen against Aljamain Sterling. He's like, oh, I've been guilty. People are saying I've been guilty of sitting up here, boosting up you up, Corey, and what you've been. I've been a Corey Sandhagen fan. I've been praising you a little bit too much. And then he get Aljamain Sterling on there and just gives the interview and praises him a little bit. But really, he was going for Sandhagen. You know what I'm saying? He was going, he was enamored with Sandhagen. And Sandhagen goes in there and gets subbed out in the first round. So I'm like, I don't put too much emphasis in Ariel Helwani, going in on Chael Sonnen and kind of being this authoritarian, saying it was disgusting what happened. Anthony Smith, they should have stopped the fight. You're not a doctor. You're a reporter. You are a reporter. You can't sit up here and act like you are a life coach for these fighters. I respect the hell out of Ariel Helwani, but when you're assessing these fights, man, you're doing what you're not supposed to do. Like media, we're not so really supposed to get over dramatized into these fighters, but it does become some fighters that you like. And if you're going to get on if you're going to have an interview with a fighter and you're up here boosting them up, saying, you know what, you're one of my best fighters out there. I've been guilty of being a Corey Sandhagen fanboy. I really look forward. I really think you're going to go in there and get the job done against Aljamain Sterling. I really think you're going to, go in there and get the win. And then Aljamain comes on the show. He probably already has seen the interview. He keeps it professional. And then he goes in there and just dominate the shit out of freaking Sandhagen, pressure him, close distance, and sub them out. I just look at it differently in certain ways, man. I just calibrate a lot of shit as far as what I've seen in my life in mixed martial arts and boxing, and what other people may look at for the first time. I compare it to other fights that I've seen. A bad question, but you can't make someone fight against their will. It's combat sports. He didn't make him do anything, D-Ray. He didn't make him do anything. Making him do anything would have been the trainer trying to basically shield the commission from talking to the fighter once the round started. That would be making him do something or issuing a threat. Talking about, if you don't fight this last round, I'm not training you anymore. There has to be a different type of circumstances, in my opinion. That's just the way I look at it. Now, it's been plenty of times where a trainer or a corner went against what the fighter said because they may feel that the fighter has a lot more in the gas tank. They just need to be motivated. So, him not really conforming or, digesting the fact that his fighter wanted to stop. He's probably looking at a whole line of fighters he's trained over the years. And he's probably looking at that fighter right there and say, you know what? You have a lot more in the tank. I think you can go in there and fight this last fight. Now, his trainer may not have thought that he can win the fight, but he wanted him to go in there and try to push through the adversity and make it to the final bell, because sometimes that kind of brings confidence to a fighter that's in a tough fight to make it to the final bell and say, okay, this is what I learned from it. But if you quit, I mean, it are certain levels to surrendering. But when you quit and you're not able to venture into the deep, dark waters of combat sports, I don't know, man. It changes fighters, It just changes fighters. So I'm pretty sure him and his team had a conversation after they left the cage. It was a tough fight for that guy. But the only thing I'm saying is, man, you just can't get on here and you have a deep connection. Like I explain this all the time about the stoppage of Wilder Fury. And I tell people, I've seen worse fights when it came down to boxing. And then people will say, well, this is the heavyweight division. Yeah, I've seen worse fights in the heavyweight division. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes down to people saying, oh, the fight should have been stopped, he was in trouble. Well, you wasn't saying that shit about Anthony Joshua and Luis Ortiz. It's been worse fights. They wasn't saying that the first time when Luis Ortiz was giving it to Deontay Wilder for 41 seconds. You know what I'm saying? And he was just able to land punches. People weren't saying, oh, stop the fight. No, he recovered and he ended up winning and stopping Luis Ortiz. That's the way I think about it. Like, it's been tough fights out there. But when you have Deontay Wilder in there with Tyson Fury, a lot of people that night was looking for Tyson Fury to win the fight. So they wanted the shit stopped. It's not the fact that Deontay couldn't go on. It's the fact, oh, well, we want Tyson Fury to pick this WBC belt up. So when it comes to any type of combat sports, in my opinion, I just look at what I've seen in the past. And then I kind of compare the fighter to those previous situations. And also I look at his previous performance, his past performance, and see, hey, I've seen this guy in some tougher fights. What's going on? Is he injured? Is it personal problems going on? I mean, what is the diagnosis here? What am I not seeing on the surface? Will he be back? We don't know if he'll be back, but I can tell you this, people. That won't be the last time. That won't be the last time that we see someone in the corner like Raquel Pennington being told to go out there for the fight. And she was taking some punishment. I ain't gonna lie. And then, to see this recent incident, to see the situation with Anthony Smith takes place with JDS. And then it comes down to how much backlash is in social media, who's talking shit about it. And then you look at the fight between Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson, right? The reason why that fight was stopped was the fact that Tony Ferguson, in the process of being one of those guys, if you look at all his memes, he has really fucked up his opposition, bloodied them to no end. Essen Barbosa, Cowboy Cerrone. Tony Ferguson has been in there and been an assassin, man. He's been a bloodbath type of fighter that would have his fighter leaking. Anthony Pettis. He's been fucking up opponents. But yet when he was on the other side and he was getting fucked up by Justin Gaethje, fans was looking like, oh, come on, Tony. Tony's used to this. He loved blood. See, it's a different type of balance. Tony Ferguson used to being in a blood war. And Justin Gaethje was giving it to him. The reason why the fight was stopped because Tony shook his head. Once he got hit with that combination, he was like, no, I'm fucked up. I can't go anymore. So the referee had no other choice but to say, you know what, fuck it. I'm stopping this fight because Tony Ferguson shook his head and he's in a bad condition. I mean, he's in a bad situation. H Money, what's good, man? World Combat Sports, what's up, bro? What's good, man? Talk to me. What's good? H Money's Mr. The Zone. So the zone, in a sense, are you Mr. The Zone as far as are you over there across the pond or you over here? That's just one of your favorite or whatever. He said, I just subscribed to you, bro. I'm loving the content. I appreciate it, man. Thanks. I appreciate that. Real talk. Then thanks for coming on deck, man. H Money said Khabib is the GOAT. I don't think I will have to say to that there, H Money, is that Khabib is indeed with horns. Khabib is close. All right. Understand what I'm saying? Khabib, when it comes to the lightweight division, he has horns. All right. But check this out. Conor McGregor had 2 losses before he came into the UFC. He's had 2 losses inside the UFC. Okay. Legendary shit. You know, with him knocking out Jose Aldo, going up the welterweight division from 145, competing at 170 versus Nate Diaz, 1-1 at welterweight at that time. I'm not talking about the Cowboy Cerrone fight. 1-1 at that time, right? He was able to lose, get subbed out in the second, come back and win the decision, drop back down to 155, face Eddie Alvarez, and stop him. Legendary shit, right? So for Khabib to go in there and finish him in the 4th round via fulcrum choke, however you want to put it, you know, people saying it's RNC, but it's really a fulcrum choke. But anyway, he subbed out Conor McGregor. It's good to have his name on this ledger. It's good. But who did Khabib have in the light and caliber of Conor McGregor prior to that we can consider him the GOAT at 28-0? You know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it, y'all. Khabib is heading to that status, but he ain't John Jones. He isn't John Jones yet. Unless you got some more, talk to me. I like to hear the input there, H Money. I'm over here in America. I just like the zone. Big bro Devin Haney is my favorite fighter, and I like Demetrius Andrade. Okay, for sure, man. Shout out to Devin Haney. You know, Demetrius Andrade, you know, he's still on the rise. But back to your GOAT status with Khabib. He has horns at 28-0. He has horns. He's getting there. But it's 2 people ahead of him absolutely right now. You got John Bones Jones, and you also have Demetrius Johnson, who's currently over in 1 championship. When you take a fighter who lost against Dominique Cruz, considered one of the best bantamweights, right, and drops down to open up the flyweight division and goes on to defend his title 11 times, 11 times, yo. Come on, man. Khabib needs to get his resume up. Alaquinta is not going to do it. Alaquinta is not going to do it, man. He has Edson Barbosa on there. He has Michael Johnson. You know what I'm saying? I get it. Most recently, you know, him going in there, subbing out Dustin Poirier. I get it. I truly get it. But I mean, Dustin Poirier. His next opponent is Justin Gaethje, man. If he goes in here and finish Justin Gaethje in under the 5-round limit and subs him out, 29-0, people are really gonna start looking at Khabib and it's like, you know what? Who's gonna beat this dude in the lightweight division? The only other person that's making a run right now that's about to face Dustin Poirier, the last person that Khabib was in there with, if Dan Hooker is able to go in here and have a good showing against Dustin Poirier, and just say, for instance, he stops him, then Dan Hooker could go there and step up to the plate against Khabib and try his freaking hand at one of the best lightweights in the game right now. But when you talk about John Jones, when you talk about Rashad Evans, Alexander Gustafsson, when you talk about all the people, Dominique Reyes most recently, DC considerably one of the best to ever do it outside of John Jones, and who's also was champ. When you talk about Lyoto Machida, man, when you talk about fighting Alexander Gustafsson, going the distance the first time and then subbing them out in the 2nd round, I believe, on the rematch. John Jones' resume far exceeds that of Khabib Nurmagomedov. We're talking about 2-3 years. Seriously, what he was able to do to Stephen Bonner, what he was able to do to Anthony Smith, even though there was decisions, what he was able to do earning decision against Thiago Santos. The list goes on, man. His resume is like this fucking high, man. But appreciate the question. But he ain't the GOAT yet. He has horns, you know. But hey, he's getting there. Khabib has never lost a round in the UFC. Yeah, Khabib is a beast, man. Sambo world champion, man. Khabib is an absolute monster. What about John Jones steroid users? Khabib is a clean athlete. Sure enough. And I like the question there. Hey, check this out. In the sport of combat, it's not all about sanctification. It ain't all about going to church. It ain't all about freaking being anointed as a priest. It's some dirty shit that goes on in combat sports, period. That's even talking about drugs, period. There have been some, look, if you're going to use, John Jones drug usage, which he faces suspension, but still they allow him to come back and fight for a title. You know what I'm saying? And he was able to go in there and get his title back. Now, when you're talking about Khabib being a clean fighter, cleanness doesn't have anything to do with the resume. Khabib's resume doesn't stack up to John Jones. Even though he's 28-0, his resume still falls short of the glory of John Jones' resume. Even if John Jones was saying he was partying a week before the fight and coming in here and still getting guys out of there that's at the top, that's a bad man. But one thing you need to understand, combat sports isn't about Bible camp. It isn't all about monk, being a monk, being one of these people who are religiously invested and going around talking about how God this and God that. John Jones has admitted that he isn't the best person. He isn't a good person. He's a grimy dude. He has his demons. He's struggled with sobriety. But I can name you several other fighters who have also had trouble and did the same exact thing that has a past, especially in boxing. You have boxers that come in from jail, prison. What are you going to do? Say they can't be? You're going to tell Bernard Hopkins just because he had paper, he did time, that he can't be in the Hall of Fame, that what he's accomplished in the sport of boxing is not worthy because he was a prior felon? You can't do that. You cannot do that unless you are a repeat offender and you continue to pop, which test results was saying the picograms was filtering out his system, and the amount of picograms in the more recent test was probably a residual release from when he was actually taking the drug. Hey, the man went before the commission. They fined him $250,000. So you got to look at it in that perspective. They fined John Jones over $200,000, man. They suspended him. Once his suspension was over, he's coming back to the UFC. Why? Because he's a moneymaker. He's a ticket seller. He's a superstar. And people absolutely wanted to come and see him fight Daniel Cormier once again. He's a bad dude, man. If by chance he pops again, all right, it's over. It's over. I believe at this point in time, John Jones wants the big fight. He wants the mega fight for his pockets, for his family, for his bank account. That's what he wants. But when it comes down to the resume of John Jones, if you take a fighter that said he was drinking, he was doing cocaine, peds at one point in time, he still defeated Daniel Cormier off technique. Technique, y'all. Y'all need to understand that. Technique. PEDs don't give you technique. When he kicked Daniel Cormier in the head, that was drug-free. And Daniel Cormier was fighting the fight. He was doing what he did. So I can't look at it like we're going to totally erase his accomplishments as a fighter because he has a very cloudy past. I can't do that because combat sports in general consists of a lot of people who has criminal past, a lot of people who has fucked up and basically been a part of performing enhancing drugs. A lot. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate it though. Dominique Reyes was beating up John Jones. Hey, H Money, I had Dominique Reyes winning that fight 3-2. Look at any of my lives, I had Dominique Reyes winning that fight 3-2. I don't know what the fuck everybody else was looking at. but Dominic Reyes was getting off first. Every time John Jones wanted to think about coming forward, Reyes shot him with a low calf kick on the inside or outside. He kept his hand busy, and at certain points during the fight, guess what? He was able to land some solid, effective shots on John Jones. And that is absolutely the way I saw the fight. 3-2. Reyes won the first 3 rounds, and John Jones attempted the takedown in the third, but he was able to get some takedowns in the 4th and 5th. So I like how he finished the fight, but Dominic Reyes deserves a rematch. Dominic Reyes deserves a rematch. The dude was 12-0 when he fought John Jones. Now he's 12-1, and people acting like, well, Dominic Reyes didn't get the job done. It wasn't like everybody else. We didn't think Thiago Santos won the fight. We didn't think Anthony Smith won the fight. But we did think Dominic Reyes won the fight. Good input, man. I was only talking about John Jones using steroids more than a few times. Well, you have to look at the picograms that was being released and him popping. And I look at it like this. He served his punishment. But on the other hand, I think John Jones, around the initial time that he got caught, possibly, yeah. But I truly believe that him knowingly ingested it, that's outside my scope. The second time around, for him to sit up here and break down the way he did emotionally in the press conference, I think he truly thought he did not ingest, willingly take steroids. And at one point in time, I believe he was trying to, pursue some type of legality against the supplement company. But who am I to sit up here and advocate for John Jones? John Jones is his own person. But what I can truly say about him, he is a highly skilled mixed martial artist. He is one of the best ever in the sport. And when he goes into the Hall of Fame, yeah, people are going to say, yeah, he was a drug cheat at this time. But you got to look at his body of work, and his shit is absolutely on fire, man. Absolutely on fire. John Jones is a great fighter. Bum, the steroid use hurts his legacy. Facts, bro. Dominic Reyes got robbed. And I mean, that's your opinion. It does no good. It's not going to do anything for me. And you saying a great fighter bombed this steroid. John Jones is no way, shape, or form a bum, bro. You know what I'm saying? For sure, man. Thanks for dropping through, man. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate that. You dropped some pretty solid points. Your last one was facts, bro. Dominic Reyes got robbed. That's just my opinion. I thought Reyes won that fight, 3-2. But yeah, I'll check you out, man. Appreciate you for stopping through. I don't know what your channel name is though, unless it's H Money, Mr. The Zone. I think what am I talking about? Okay, I got you. But that's where I'm at with that, man. With mixed martial arts, yeah, it's always going to be individuals that mess up somehow, some way, whether it's something outside of the cage or the ring that's criminal, or inside the ring. But I think there's a fine line when they start to critique it, when they start to scrutinize it. It comes down to if that particular fighter puts someone's life in danger. If they place someone's life in danger in attempting to cheat, we're saying like Panama Lewis was accused of doing with Billy Collins, and then also the fight between Aaron Pryor and Alexis Arguello. Him potentially giving him a different bottle of liquid. When you look at certain fighters like Antonio Margarita, who was actually caught by Sugar Shane's Hakeem, what's his name? Nassim Richardson. He actually caught the wraps and caught the substance on there. So with Antonio Margarito, in a sense, the only reason he wasn't banned like Panama Lewis was the fact that they caught it ahead of time. Okay, they caught it ahead of time. If by chance they would have been able to confiscate the wraps after the Miguel Cotto fight, and it was the same, then maybe he would have been banned from the sport for having the amount of punishment he put on Miguel Cotto and having loaded wraps, right, with the plaster of Paris. But it wasn't no evidence to it. It was just speculation after Sugar Shane's his trainer, was able to catch the fucked up hand wraps. And we all know what happened after that. Sugar Shane went in there and goddamn destroyed Antonio Margarito. And he probably had a lot more energy knowing that he was trying to give him that Miguel Cotto work. He was trying to go in there and give him that Miguel Cotto type of freaking work. And thanks to a very attentive trainer in Richardson, he was able to catch it. But you cannot convince me that he didn't have loaded hand wraps in there against Miguel Cotto, man. He changed Miguel's Cotto's life. And we don't even know how Miguel's going to be 5 to 10 years from now if he actually start to suffer from pugilistica from taking that much punishment during that fight. Okay, cool. I got you, bro. Paulo Costa is a monster, big bro. Yeah. Paulo Costa, man, listen. For him to balloon in weight the way he does in between fights, okay. I'm saying, damn, dude has a strong mental blade already, right? And then I'm looking at how he was able to go in there and withstand the punishment of Uriah Hall, right? And then he steps up and go in there and defeats Yoel Romero, who pretty much has a physique similar to Romero. Both of them guys are chiseled. But what I like about Costa's game is that he includes kicks into his striking discipline. I like how he includes kicks. The dude has pretty decent, endurance, conditioning, and he has some pretty solid punches. His striking is pretty respectable, right? I'm really hoping he goes in here and give Israel Adesanya a very competitive fight. Because, listen, I try to tell people this about Adesanya. When Adesanya was moving up through the ranks, he was aggressive against fighters that he knew he can be aggressive against, like the Brad Tavares, and then Alvin Viteri. And then, when he was moving up, he finally faced Kevin Gastelum. Give it up for him. He went in there and fought Kevin Gastelum, and he ended up, defeating him to get the title shot. But Robert Whittaker had the wrong game plan to face Adesanya. I'm not sold on Adesanya. I told people that before he stepped in there with Yoel Romero. I'm not sold on this cat. And he had one of the second worst fights ever, in my opinion, in the championship game. Israel Adesanya had one of the second worst behind Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Darren Till. Seriously, I'm being absolutely honest, man. I hope Paulo Costa goes in there and give Adesanya the business. I'm just not sold on this dude, man. It was just bad all the way around, man. It was extremely bad. Like, I'm not wishing no bad on Adesanya. I'm not sold on who he is. Just like I wasn't sold on Yoel Romero because he lacked cardio. He cheated against Tim Kennedy, and he's been able to make himself up to title shots in the process of getting the opportunity. You've been given the opportunity and you can't get past the freaking title shot and pick up the belt. You know what I'm saying? You're in phenomenal shape. Even though you're 40 years old now, 40 some years old, you're in phenomenal shape and you can't get the belt. Why? Why can't you push the pace? You're in phenomenal shape. But Paulo Costa, I believe he's going to be able to push the pace against Adesanya. I do. I believe he can. We'll see, man. I'm from the South, man. I'm from Georgia. I think Paulo Costa will knock out Adesanya. You know, on paper, bro, I think, you know, the power and the way he switches up his striking delegation. I truly believe that Paulo Costa, if he applies a disciplined game plan, he can go in there and potentially stop, because Adesanya's been dropped. All right, he's been dropped. But my only thing with Paulo Costa is, first of all, making weight, and then being healthy enough to step in there against Adesanya and be able to make Adesanya work. Now, one good thing I've seen with Adesanya is his takedown defense. Like, his takedown defense is pretty solid. So if indeed it's difficult for Paulo Costa to take him down, it's going to come to the striking game, the stand-up game, when it comes to punches and kicks, and then, you know, who can land the most effective strikes, and also, if by chance the fight goes into the third round, who's going to be the worst for wear, whose condition is going to be the most degraded, and then who's going to take advantage of it. Will we see Paulo Costa be able to get in close, get a takedown? Or will we see Israel Adesanya stay on the outside, be able to work his punches and kicks, and just pick freaking Paulo Costa apart? I can't see that happening, man. A lot of what I want to put together in this bout, I can't see Adesanya just stand on the outside for 5 rounds and picking Paulo Costa apart. I don't see it. Paulo Costa is going to be a big freaking middleweight. You know, like, once he finally step in there, he's going to be the bigger fighter. Period. He's going to be the bigger fighter. Now, it comes down to the cardio issue. It comes down to how smart he's going to be when he's in there contending against the champion, Adesanya. I agree with you. Israel Adesanya might be overrated. I truly, I don't think Adesanya is overrated, because he was able to go in there and get the knockout. He defeated, you know, Robert Whittaker. And then before that, he did go in there and defeat Kevin Gastelum, who's the interim champion, right? But when it comes down to him facing Paulo Costa, a lot of what I see with the his all-around skill set tells me that Costa would be a good matchup. It's going to be a solid matchup for freaking Izzy. I'm from Los Angeles. I live in Memphis. Okay, shout out to Memphis, man. I was just over that way. All right, cool. West Coast. You know, West Coast Los Angeles, man. Hey, I think they still in lockdown over there. D-Ray says Scott knows his combat sports. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I just need some more interviews, man. H-Money say D-Ray salute, bro. Yeah, but you know, that's what I see, man. I'm looking forward to the fight. I'm looking forward to see Khabib stepping there with Justin Gaethje. Oh my God. This is going to change the lives and the career path of 2 fighters. Justin Gaethje, before he even entered the UFC, man, I was like, damn, Justin Gaethje, I like how he goes about the fight, but he just takes too much punishment. And it ended up forcing him, once he did make it to the UFC, those 2 losses to freaking Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, it forced him to change his approach and how he was going to go in there. He tuned up his boxing. No one's really freaking infiltrated the takedown defense of Justin Gaethje. But you know who's going to do that? Khabib Nurmagomedov. If Khabib Nurmagomedov cannot infiltrate the takedown defense or even take Justin Gaethje down on his back, oh my God, what the rest of the division is going to do? Who else in the goddamn division, the lightweight division, is going to do that? Who's going to test Justin Gaethje? Is it going to be a rematch clause if Khabib loses? Who else is in the lightweight division is going to give that? Who else? I don't see it. Not the way Justin Gaethje fought Tony Ferguson. And, you know, I always been the one to say Tony Ferguson take a lot of punishment, but also Justin Gaethje was known for taking a lot of punishment. Who made the better change? Justin Gaethje. Boy, oh, he looked good in that fight. He gave Tony Ferguson the business, all of it. Hey, I appreciate D-Ray said today's interview was outstanding. I appreciate that, man. Seriously, I appreciate it. There's levels to interviewing also. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, to be honest with you, D-Ray, like when you interview certain fighters that's on another, like just say the regional level that's on the come up, right? You may not have an extensive backstory to them. And some of the fighters that's on their way up, a lot of them really don't engage. You know what I'm saying? They don't engage you with the dialogue. You're up here looking for the dialogue. You like, you're trying to find something to talk about. And they might have a record that's still in the single digits. You know what I'm saying? But when you get to the elite level of some of these fighters, they have history. They have, stuff that you can research on social media. They have all this info that's out here, this data that you can resource and do study on. So the interview is going to be different. And people need to understand, like when you hear you hear these guys up here, the Kellermans, the Stephen A. Smith, they've been in the game for quite some time. You hear the Andre Wards, Timothy Bradley, and on the MMA side, the Annex, you have Joe Rogan, DC, who was actually a fighter, Chael Sonnen, who's a mouthpiece of the MMA. They interview the guys that are basically on the level of competing right now on the highest level, average to high level of mixed martial arts. So it's easy for them to interview some of these fighters because they get exclusive access. Me, I have to do my research from what I have access to via online. So I appreciate, man, I appreciate the kind words, bro. Real talk. H-Man say at World Combat Sports, interview Otha Jones. I know who Otha Jones is, man. Listen, bro. Believe me, I try to get in contact with some of these fighters, and they don't even return. They don't even understand. Like this social media deal, man. I guess you have to put out. It's a connect thing. It's all about the connections. It's all about who you know. And yeah, I know exactly who he is. And yeah, I definitely want to interview him. Great young fighter, 21-time national. I know, man. Over 270 wins in the amateur. He fights on his own. I know who Otha Jones is, man. But some of these fighters, you hear them on the inbox, and I don't know. I'm an old school cat, man. I don't have all the freaking numbers. I don't have all the views and shit like that. But my content and my body of work, I pretty much have an understanding of what I'm talking about when it comes to boxing and MMA. I just have to somehow get the resources for people to give me an interview. Like, shout out to Coach Derek Santos, who linked me up to the interview with Herbert Burns and Gilbert Burns. Hopefully I'm able to interview his brother before he stepped in there July 11th. I think he was impressed with how much you know about him and his brother. I appreciate that, man. I hope so. Because word of mouth in this independent media game means a lot. And I've been following sports for a long time. Ever since the UFC, the inception of the UFC, I follow it. I've been following boxing long before that. So yeah, it's all about the research, man. It's all about, attending the fights, doing your research on these fighters, make it interesting, understand what the hell they talk about, and show them respect, man. They the ones who freaking go in there and contend, man. That's it. But I appreciate it, bro, D-Ray. I appreciate it, man. I interviewed his trainer on my channel. Hit him up on Instagram. He would respond. Okay, I'll see. I'll see what's up there, H-Money. I'll see. I'll definitely check that out. But yeah, I'm trying to get an interview with some other people that you know. Like I would definitely like to put the name out there, but I don't want to put the name out there, and I really haven't locked down the interview yet. Because it depends. You give people your personal number, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want them to have my freaking personal. Man, I'm grown, man. you hit them up on freaking the DM, or you hit them on private message, and you leave your phone number, and they don't contact you on either or. You just have to wait. It's a waiting game. But yeah, I'll definitely hit this cat up. Another fight, man. If we and I'm about to close this out because out of respect, it's Herbert Burns' interview. But what's coming up next, man, is big. You know, with the fight with Gerard, the real baby Anderson, the real big baby Anderson. He's fighting on the undercard, Jarrell Miller, man. I'm gonna try my best to see if he still had the same manager, and hopefully I'm able to try to get Jarrell Miller on here. I'll see. I can see something brewing right there, y'all. You know, get Jared Anderson, get him in there on the undercard, and Jarrell Miller is fighting Jerry Forrest. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about two guys who have similar records. Jarrell Big Baby Miller has what, 20 knockouts? Something like that, 22 victories. And then Jerry Forrest, he has like 23 victories, 20 knockouts, and 3 losses. So that right there is going to be pretty cool, man. The real Big Baby Miller against Big Baby Miller. You know what I'm saying? It's something brewing right there. I think these two might fight each other, man. Seriously. I think Jarrell Miller may fight Jarrell Anderson sometime or another. Yeah, man. I like what I'm seeing for Anderson, man. Even though his competition, I actually seen his last opponent fight in person down there in Florida. I knew he was a tough guy, but I didn't know how good of a condition he was in because we've been in the pandemic. But I knew he was a tough fighter. Man, Anderson went in there and worked him. He got him up out of there the way he's supposed to. Yeah. Anderson is the next great American heavyweight. We'll see, man, because the changing of the guard is happening there, H Money. The changing of the guard is freaking happening in front of our face. You know, the Tyson Furies, the Deontay Wilders, Anthony Joshua is in his 30s now, his low 30s. So Anthony Joshua, in my opinion, I think he's going to be around another 5 years, man. What he's going to do with that 5 years as champion, if he sustains that, I don't know. Because he's very meticulous on who he wants to fight. But there's going to be a changing of the guard. You got Daniel Dubois that's up there. You got F.A. Jogba. Man, you have all the, even with Andy Konoski losing to Robert Helenius, he's still freaking a competitor. You know what I'm saying? You got Joe Joyce coming up. You know, you have Derek Chisora that's still out there. You have Dillian White, who potentially may become promoted to the WBC champion if Tyson Fury is moved up to franchise champion. Who freaking cares? I'm just looking forward to Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. Who else? Young heavyweights. We have young heavyweights that's out there. You know, you still have Jarrell Miller. Who else do we have out there? That's like the young gunners that's in the building. You got Charles Martin still out there. You know, he's trying to make his comeback. But really, you know, the young cats like F.A. Jogba, man, it's gonna depend. Let me look up something right quick. Let me look up the ranking systems right quick. I need to jump outside the mental database and kind of find out something right quick. Yeah, Oscar Rivas. That's who I was looking for. Oscar Rivas. That's who I was looking for. Oscar Rivas. And then you got Michael Hunter that's up there. And where's that other heavyweight? Where's the other heavyweight that is on the come up? I think it was Michael Hunter who I was looking at. Okay. Anderson reminds me of a young Riddick Bowe. He's in my opinion, Riddick Bowe put together more punches. That's in my opinion. He put together more punches and had more power. Anderson absolutely has an extreme amount of potential, a heavy load of potential. I ain't gonna lie to you. It was very entertaining watching him step in there and fight. Seriously. I just look to see how he progresses once he starts to improve his competition. I got to give it up to him though. He is an exciting fighter to watch. I'm not gonna lie. You got Philippe Grovic. Yeah. But to be honest, I've seen a couple of his fights, and some of these fighters that don't have a big name, we may not see them, on the big screen enough to see how they match up. We have to see them in there with some solid fighters, man. But yeah, and speaking of him, right? Grovic, I know I just saw him. Yeah, he's just inside the top 10 of the WBC. I remember seeing his name, but he's just inside the top 10 of the WBC. He's ranked Grovic number 6 in the IBF, and he's on the back door of the top 15 in the WBO. So he's ranked in the WBC, WBA, and the WBO. And let me make sure. No, I'll take that back. He's ranked number 6 in the IBF too. He's ranked across the board, man. Let me see. Hagrovic. No, he's not ranked in the WBA. So he's ranked in the WBC, IBF, and WBO. He's not ranked in the WBA, which is still good. That puts him in the running to face some of those names in the future, I suppose. Daniel Dubois has a bout coming up, and I know y'all gonna say you didn't mention Andy Ruiz. I just didn't appreciate the way Andy Ruiz went in there and sold out his titles, somewhat like Charles Martin did when he fought Anthony Joshua. I didn't appreciate that. And though Andy Ruiz is still a competitive heavyweight in the game, I just didn't like how he just cashed in and took the money and came in overweight and talking about he got wrapped up in the superstardom. I didn't appreciate that shit. I just think it was unprofessional. And for him to be the first Mexican heavyweight, he didn't really embrace his country. He didn't drape the colors around him so people can respect him for 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, we remember Andy Ruiz. He went in there and defeated Anthony Joshua, and also he defended his titles. We can't say that shit. Philip wants Dillian White and Anthony Joshua. It's gonna be a while. Anthony Joshua has to go in here and disperse a Kubrat Pulev. It's a lot of buffoonery that's going on in the heavyweight division right now. We know that shit. We sit up here knowing that Tyson Fury has that freaking mandatory contractual agreement in a trilogy against Deontay Wilder. And then also Anthony Joshua has Kubrat Pulev as a mandatory. Now, on top of that, Tyson Fury comes back out talking about him and Anthony Joshua has somehow, some way agreed to a 2-fight deal. Ain't nobody trying to goddamn hear that shit. So if Anthony Joshua was able to disperse a Kubrat Pulev, who has every intention, in his words, of winning those titles, then we may see potentially, Anthony Joshua facing some of these other people, these other contenders in the ranks. But check this out, though. Kubrat Pulev is the mandatory, the IBF mandatory for Anthony Joshua, right? So behind that, behind Kubrat Pulev, the lineup is Charles Martin, Alexander Usyk, Michael Hunter, Andy Ruiz. Philippe is number 6. It's going to be a while. I don't know. It depends on the promotion, who's ready. And you also got Joseph Parker sitting in number 7. So we'll see, man. We'll see what freaking happens. Dillian White. Man, I know Dillian White is you know, as much as I done criticized Dillian White, man, and seeing him in person, and you know, he was a cool cat, man. But when it comes to boxing, I still have to, you know, I'm not denigrating him, but just the way he's went about maintaining that respect for people to look at him in the heavyweight division. You know, the way he was up there campaigning for Deontay Wilder when Anthony Joshua has always been right next door to him. And you're talking about a fighter who stepped in there and was knocked out by Anthony Joshua. So why wouldn't you circle back and say, I want to fight for the championship again? If you're a countryman, why has it been so difficult for Dillian White to get back in the ring with Anthony Joshua? Anyway, that's all I'm saying, man. D-Ray, I was promoting some local fights on the Boxing Voice. Okay, cool. Shout out to the Boxing Voice, man. One of the best in the game is doing it. Shout out to Ness. I met him, let me see, probably a couple times. You know, I seen him at work, man. Shout out to the Boxing Voice, though. Andy Ruiz is working with Canelo's trainer. Yeah, Eddie Reynoso. Yeah, he might be rededicated to the sport. Hey, check this out, H Money. Dedicated to the sport. Isn't dedicated to the sport is you go up there, you win the titles, and you remain focused. If you want to buy the Rolls Royces, the Bentleys, and everything else, you understand that what it took for you to get to that moment, you were able to accomplish it. Dedicated, right? He didn't have that focus and he didn't have that dedication when he was out there spending money. So therefore, changing trainers tells me one thing. It's the fact that is Eddie Reynoso any different than him training with his father? Like, I know father and son dynamics, they fragment all the time, but only thing I'm saying is it going to be, once again, the money and the partying that's going to conflict with him with Eddie Reynoso? Because Reynoso, he has legitimate validation. He is accredited. He is legit. The problem is Andy Ruiz. Is he going to be able to maintain focus? Is he going to be able to improve on his next showing under the guidance of Eddie Reynoso? I mean, Andy Ruiz is not a Canelo Alvarez. Let's be honest. Andy Ruiz can box. Andy Ruiz can that performance he put on against Anthony Joshua, man, I got to give him a salute for that shit, yo. I do. But the career-wise, I mean, Canelo Alvarez is on a whole nother level of complete focus. But good point there, H Money. Good point, man. Solid point. D-Ray said, was that Wilder dancing suspect? Okay, I'm gonna get on that. I gotta read. I knew it was gonna be somebody that bring that shit up, man. I knew we wasn't gonna go through this thread, and I'm gonna answer that. And then I'm gonna bounce. H Money said, "Great talking to you, bro. I will be back next time you go live. Come check me out on my channel. Peace, D-Ray." I do that, H Money, man. Thanks for dropping in, man. Thanks for dropping some boxing content. That's all I want. I want to talk boxing with people who in like minds know the sport. So yeah, man, I'll definitely come check you out, bro. Are you going to be on tonight at 9:30 or not? I will have. Well, I'll subscribe to your channel, man, and come over there and put the notification. H Money said, I'm going to send my subscribers to your channel. I like it over here. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Real talk. I appreciate it. You know, be sure to stop back through, man. H Money said, yes, sir. D-Ray. D-Ray said, was that Wilder dancing suspect? Before, I have to get some water before I answer this. This is my response to that, man. And Wilder dancing suspect. I don't think it was suspect, man. He was up there, you know, having fun with his girl, Telly, you know, his fiance, I believe. And though twerking is not one of my moves ever, you know what I'm saying? Times has changed. I'm an older dude, man. Twerking, even though I danced back in the day, was breakdancing and popping and waving and all that. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was at the club, I did, you know, when we called it back then, we called it freaking or whatever, and you dance up on a girl and you go at that time, you can go just as low as she can, but you have a partner, okay? The one thing that people say that men are suspect in twerking is the fact that the dance more so is done without a female being right there on you. So you can kind of project the mannerisms and everything to the female. You just freaking up on a female and you're dancing up on her, and it's kind of accepted more. Twerking shit is pretty much like something you see a female do most of the time. All right. I'm not the one that ever have audio or video pulled up of twerking. I don't see if it's a dance that I agree with unless I'm looking at a female do it. You know what I'm saying? But listen, if Deontay want to do that and mess around for his girl, I don't have a problem with it. You know why I don't have a problem with it? Because just because black men do certain things, and then we know alpha black men, we don't have no questionable suspect to who they are in life. They're up here fucking around and having fun with their girl. So be it. You know why? This is what I'm going to say, D-Ray. You know why I feel the way I feel? Because when it comes to black men doing certain things that's on a celebrity status, people tend to scrutinize it as being gay, homo, suspect, and everything else just because they're doing it. But once again, check this out. Tyson Fury can go up there and kiss Sefa Safari in the mouth and act like they on a Tinder date and goddamn picking the man up and cradle him and all that shit. You know, act like he's licking Deontay's blood, you know, sticking his tongue out when they was in the clinch and sticking his tongue like he's licking the man's blood. That shit ain't suspect. This shit ain't suspect walking around in your drawers all the time and doing suspect shit. You know, up here looking Tom Schwartz in the freaking eyes and saying, "Oh, you're a handsome fella." I mean, look, it's one or two things that can go with that. You're very secure in your manhood and who you are, or the other side, which is quite obvious, you're suspect. You just can't say Tyson Fury is doing it because he's a Brit. No, every Brit doesn't go around here doing that. If Anthony Joshua would have indeed went up there and kissed Sefa Safari, Francisco Pianetta, Otto Wallen, or freaking Tom Schwartz in the mouth, they would have said, goddamn, Anthony Joshua is gay. Absolutely, they would have said that shit. If we was to see Anthony Joshua up here twerking, they would say Anthony Joshua is suspect. So you see Deontay Wilder chilling with his family, having fun. I say, man, do what you got to do, man. Fuck it. You know, if that's what you're doing for your girl, cool. That's not something I would do. But he's up here, from my understanding, Telly was filming, and he was up here having fun and doing what he's doing. That's all I can say on that, man. I don't think Deontay Wilder's suspect for doing that. You know what I'm saying? But if by chance it would have been another dude in the area and it was twerking going on and he was twerking up on, that's a different story. But he was up there twerking by himself and his girl was there. And, you know, he has a beautiful fiance. So if you screwing around for your girl, man, and having fun, I don't see a problem with that. I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem for them doing it. Me, I would never do that. Suspect already, but that's on them. I get it, man. If that's how you feel, hey, I'm not the one to sit up here and be a counselor for him, man. I just can't do it. But look, times has changed in a lot of ways what dudes are out here doing and the way they be out here moving. Times has changed. But, you know, being with your girl doing that is different than just being out in the parking lot or being at the club or freaking, you know, having your hand around a dude's neck from behind and up there looking like y'all want to slow dance. That's a different suspect. You know, it's a different type of suspect. You know, it's a difference when you do it by yourself. That's all I'm saying, man. D-Ray going in. Hey, I know, man. I didn't even want to bring that up, but he said they already say Anthony Joshua's suspect. I know, man. I know. I've been hearing that, but once again, that's something I don't care about. I don't have to deal with them until I see it. As media, I don't really get into people's personal shit like that. I don't care about their money. I don't really care about what they're doing in their personal life until it hits the top layer, so I can say, okay, let me see, is this something I can report on? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I've heard that a lot about Joshua. I have. But it's combat sports, and I primarily want to report on things that has to do with competing. I ain't a reality show, so money, Anthony Joshua potentially having this person on the side of being suspect, hey, whatever. No problem with family fun. Like AB and Tank a little too close. Now, in that particular situation, I look at it like it's just AB has known Tank for a long time. That's all I can say. AB known Tank for a long time. Like, once again, I don't care how long I've known you. I wouldn't walk up behind and put my hand behind and say, oh, it's just me. It's all, no. But they've known each other since they was childhood. You know what I'm saying? They've been around each other for a minute. It's a different type of understanding. You know why I say that? Because if you have white fighters that's out here, you have Mexicans that can do that, and no one says anything. No one says anything. But the stigma that is placed against black celebrities, black athletes, if they show that type of affection, the first thing people want to say is they suspect. That's not cool. That's not cool, because our culture is different. It's frowned upon because we can't even show, a buddy walk up and give him a hug. Somebody that you've known since childhood, you can't walk up and give him a hug. You can't sit up here and mess around with them without somebody saying, oh man, that was gay. I mean, you got to look at where it's coming from, man. We get scrutinized a lot for if we attempt to do shit that you see the Brits, we see the Irish, we see the Hispanics, or we even see the white fighters doing. It happens all the time, y'all. But D-Ray, make no mistake about it. I totally understand what you're talking about. I totally get it. I totally get it. I totally understand, man. What you think about that fight? Potentially, AB, possibly, rumor mill, maybe fighting Gary Russell. I'm hopefully I'm able to talk to Gary Russell sometime soon, man. But man, I got a lot to talk to that brother about. Him and his family is one of the most woke. I mean, I'm talking about one of the most attentive families that you will communicate with in the sport of boxing. Seriously, from Anton to Antonio, even all the way up to his brother who trains him. Man, they some woke individuals when it comes to life in general. But I definitely want to talk to Gary Russell, man, and ask him about, him potentially moving up to 135 or 140. And if by chance, I hate to talk about this shit. When it comes to Adrian Broner, I really hate to talk about it because I can't see Adrian Broner. The last time I saw Adrian Broner, he was in Nashville, Tennessee for the Caleb Plant fight and Vincent Fegan boots, right? I can't see Adrian Broner making 140. Adrian Broner have to fight at a catch weight like he did against Jesse Vargas, y'all. I can't see that man making 140 to fight Gary Russell. I can't see it. Excuse me. I can't see him making 140 to fight Regis Prograis. The motivation. Where's the motivation to get down and weight? I remember Adrian Broner saying, I'm gonna cut off IG, I'm gonna cut off social media, and shit is serious. Are they gonna give Adrian Broner half of the 10 million that he was asking for to get him motivated to come back. Gary Russell is that name, man. We would tune in and see Gary Russell and Adrian Broner. Period. We would absolutely tune in. But Gary Russell, come on, man. What weight class is Gary Russell at? Featherweight, right? So therefore, for Gary Russell to put on that weight and go all the way up to 140 or 143, whatever the freaking schedule weight limit is Adrian Broner going to be able to make that? I don't know, man. Yeah, Gary Russell's a real one. Absolutely. I agree with that. Gary Russell and his brothers, they're all fighting different weight classes. They all fight in different weight classes, man. Seriously. Gary Russell fight in different weight class, and then Antoine and Antonio fight in different weight classes themselves. That's real. But as a family, the Russell clan themselves are very intellectually groomed and knowledgeable individuals as young men, period. It's a lot in how their thought process is about life and as black men and how they carry themselves, period, in life. And someone's educated these brothers a lot in their lifetime. And not only that, they have basically complemented one another in teaching environment as they've grown in life. You can tell by the way they communicate, man. But when it comes to boxing, I just want to see Gary Russell step in there and face somebody. It would have been good to see him face Elio Santa Cruz, but we just want to see Gary Russell face somebody with that's a top name. And for mine, but hey, be sure to tune in, man. It's Monday. Hopefully everybody's having a wonderful week, and understand that COVID-19 is still going on, man. It's still crazy out here, and especially down in the A, it's still crazy. But I salute everybody who's tuning in on a regular basis. D-Ray, appreciate all the input, my brother, and dropping through and supporting the channel. Pass the word, man. I'm definitely trying to get more subscribers and build a channel. H Money, salute for stopping through, man. Be sure to check out your channel. Who else dropped through earlier? Lion Killer, salute to you, man. Be sure to check that brother out. Subscribe to his channel, man. Sporting Advantage, salute to you. Yeah. All of you that was in the live chat, man, thanks for the content that you dropped through. And today's interview was with Herbert Burns, man. He's a featherweight contender on the rise in the 145-pound division. Currently in the UFC, him and his brother Gilbert Burns, who is now competing in the welterweight division. And look, he has an exciting championship fight coming up with the one and only Kamaru Usman. Former teammates. I mean, I'll take that back. They're not former teammates. They are teammates, but they are contending against each other for the championship. So the history is there. The experience, familiarity in some way, shape, or form in sparring, they have touched bases. So the textbooks on both fighters are open. This is going to be an interesting fight. Seriously, this is going to be a very interesting fight, especially for Gilbert Burns, especially for him to step in here and go against a teammate, and also that teammate being Kamaru Usman, the welterweight champion. It's going to be a tough fight. It's 5 rounds, 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And look forward to a war, man. I'm always curious when you have an elite BJJ practitioner on the skill set of Gilbert Burns, to step in there with Kamaru Usman, who has very respectable and advanced high level wrestling, has very solid takedown defense. It's going to be good to see these two fighters box. Good to see them. Who's going to be able to implement leg kicks periodically? Who's going to be able to change levels at the right time? Who's going to be able to gain the momentum early? We'll see, y'all. We'll see. I'm going to watch the Blaze fight. Thanks. Who is the underdog? The underdog, of course, if you're looking at Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns, it's going to be Gilbert Burns. He's a challenger. Period. Even though his performance against Tyron Woodley was more exciting, in my opinion, than the match that Usman had with Woodley, people are still going to say, okay, Usman went in there and defended his title against Colby Covington. Colby Covington is still ranked high on the ladder when it comes to the welterweight division. So take that in consideration. Take Gilbert Burns, who just became the #1 contender for the welterweight division, and he's stepping in there for the first time to challenge for the title. He's going to be the underdog. He is the underdog. Make no mistake about it. But until then, turn up and tune in. Salute. Be sure to follow World Combat Sports.